a lot of great memories. It was from one game, but a lot of great memories of this stadium and a lot of great memories of this culture and these fans, and so it was great to come back and feel that energy again.
It means a lot, actually, just knowing that, I got the advantage on beating New Orleans. I come back home after the season, talk a little trash, so that's good. That's with my family members. I know they all love the Saints, so it's just good for me to come back home and rub it in their face a little bit.
I like Ja'Marr Chase's answer better
Yes.
right there. That he was the second person speaking. Joe Burrow was the first one. Joe Burrow very classy, very, it's a special memory. Ja'Marr Chase is like, all my friends are Saints fans and I get to talk trash. Yes, you do. When you walk the walk, you get to talk the talk. Ja'Marr Chase back in as a locked-in #1 wide receiver. He's had 9 or more targets in 5 or 6 games so far this year. You're not worried about it. Your opportunity to buy low on Ja'Marr Chase has now passed.
Yeah, long gone. So while everything was all good for the Bengals and that quarterback-wide receiver connection, it has not been the same in Green Bay. And it did not look any better this week when they were home at Lambeau against the New York Jets. Sorry, you didn't get the memo.
I got to be honest with you. I didn't think we were going double wide on the Jets jerseys. For those of you listening at home, Jay is wearing Sauce Gardner, his pick for defensive rookie of the year, and you went Keyshawn. Throw you the damn ball.
That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's how Elijah Moore's feeling right now.
I was just about to say you should have worn an Elijah Moore jersey. Throw me the damn ball. They don't need to because Breece Hall is running everywhere. Guys, your Jets, especially Connor, you come by it honestly. You're just a bandwagon. Connor comes by it honestly. Although I will say, Jay, you have always been on Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, Sauce is my guy, and now he's the favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's into plus 300. We talked about him at plus 1,400 a couple of weeks ago. And look, he's the favorite for a reason. He was incredible yesterday. He got targeted 6 times, gave up 1 completion for 8 yards, and then also had his little moment. I didn't appreciate Alan Lazard coming at my boy. I didn't like that.
100%. Sauce Gardner, again, you walk the walk, you get to talk the talk. He puts on a cheesehead. He's walking through Lambeau, as you see on the video right there, until Alan Lazard comes up and knocks it off his head.
Why don't you catch some passes, Alan, in the game instead?
I was just going to say, I think that's the only defensive stop the Packers made all game.
Let's hear from Sauce on this villain act of wearing the cheesehead at Lambeau. You can see why Jay likes him. Villains like villains.
Yeah. That's true.
Just being able to play against somebody like Aaron Rodgers, that was a true blessing. Like I said, I grew up playing Madden, and he always been on Madden since I can remember. Running off the field with that cheesehead thing, cheese on my head, that was a crazy feeling right there. But I'm never going to forget that.
Sauce Gardner feeling real good after yet another game, shooting up the Defensive Rookie of the Year board right now.
Now the clear favorite by himself. And let's just take a minute. We get caught up in everything that happened yesterday. The Jets beat the Packers by 3 scores in Lambeau.
At Lambeau.
They would have been, coming into the season, they would have been 13-point dogs in that game.
I mean, just think about this statement at the beginning of the year. Green Bay will lose to both New York teams.
back to back.
Back to back. You'd have been like, no way. What's the odds? I'll take whatever
happened to
odds
Aaron
you
Rodgers?
give me.
That's what you would say.
It's super weird. You would think taking Devontae Adams away from this offense wouldn't affect it at all, and yet here it seems it seems like it has on some small level. It's kind of a weird one.
I think with the Jets, here's the thing, their pass defense at the start of the year wasn't great. It wasn't because of Sauce or DJ Reed who have been great all along. It's because of the safety.
Yes.
So I'm still not super confident in him. But now, with the way that Sauce and DJ are playing, with Quinnen Williams is playing like the guy who was drafted 3rd overall, they have a lot of talent on that defense. And then offensively, Breece Hall is out there looking like Jonathan Taylor did last year. And look, I think fantasy-wise, it's kind of bad news for Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore, the fact that the Jets have been a lot better than expected, because Robert Saleh is showing that when they have a lead, and they're going to have more leads than we thought, they're just going to run Breece Hall, and he is the guy on that team now.
18 pass attempts for Zach Wilson, no touchdowns at all. I mean, and by the way, didn't need to. Again, they played very well. They ran the ball. They controlled the clock here, Connor. There's 2 sides to the story, right? There's number one is how serious can we take the Jets? It's a great story. It's unbelievable. Sure. If you're a Jets fan like you are, you have to feel very optimistic about the this week.
Jags out, Jets in.
Right. I'm old enough to remember when you were a lifetime Jags fan 2 weeks ago.
They hurt my feelings.
But so you're certainly optimistic about the direction the Jets are heading. But, let's talk about it from a fantasy perspective. And then you also think about, hey, the Packers, what's going on with Green Bay, and can you trust them? Let's start with Green Bay for a second, then we'll get into the Jets, because I think Green Bay is maybe the more interesting story. Part of me wants to write this off a little bit because they're coming off the game from London. Usually teams coming out of that London game get a bye, and they didn't get a bye.
Yep.
Right? They're right back at it, having to play a Red Hot Jets team. The other thing, though, but guys, it just doesn't feel like in sync when the leading target getter on your offense is Robert Tonyan. Something's wrong there for an offense. I don't want to say broken, but it doesn't feel efficient, doesn't feel like it's moving, in synchronicity.
Here's all the problems I saw yesterday. They have a revolving door at right guard that's killing Aaron Rodgers. There's pressure from a D tackle in his face every other play because they have a revolving door at right guard. They took out the starter and Royce Newman, brought in a backup, and he was just as bad. Aaron Jones went to the sideline multiple times looking at his ankle or knee. I think he got something taped up. So there's obviously limitations there. And there is nothing is in sync with these wide receivers at all. Nothing is in sync against a good corner duo, no doubt about that, but they couldn't get anything going, like you said. So the Packers offense, there's layered problems across the board.
Yep, there is. And I just think it will get better. At the same time, Romeo Doubs was targeted 9 times yesterday and had 21 yards off of 9 targets. That's just not good enough. I would be buying low on the Packers in a way just because I think that Aaron Rodgers and that team, there's too much talent there for them to be this bad. But if you're looking at futures markets for the Packers, they're not going to win the division now because they're 2 back of Minnesota. They're down the tiebreak against the Vikings too. So they have a very tough path back. And just last thing on the Jets, talked about Robert Saleh, 50-1, coach of the year last week. He's only 25-1 now. His 25-1 is still a bet. That is still way too big. I would have him third favorite behind Nick Sirianni and Brian Davis.
Yeah, I'm still believing in the running backs here. Look, it was nice to see A.J. Dillon get back here. 14 touches in this game. Still didn't get into the end zone. Hasn't scored since week 1, but that's coming. I feel like that's a little bit fluky, but it was nice to see the usage there. Basically an even split with Aaron Jones in terms of the snaps, in terms of the touches as well. Aaron Jones, on the season is still a top 20 fantasy running back. Finished as we ended Monday night, he's running back 26 in this game. As you said, depressed game. He spent some time on the sideline here. I do think there is one guy in the passing attack. The Tonyan game is I need to see double-digit targets again before I'm willing to buy into Big Bob Tonyan. But I will say that Allen Lazard has now scored in 4 out of 5 games this year. He's had 4 straight games with at least 13.5 fantasy points. He's wide receiver 16 over that stretch in these last 4 games. 9 targets in this one. He's wide receiver 12 on the week as we head into Monday Night Football. And next up on the schedule, my Washington Commanders. If ever there was a team to help you get right, it would be the Washington Commanders defense. Here's the next 4 for the Packers, though. So just to your point about optimism. So they play the Commanders, then they play the Bills, then they play the Lions, then they play the Cowboys. So 2 great matchups, 2 bad matchups, right? And again, we would have thought the Jets was a good matchup, at least a neutral one, and it turned out to be a bad one. So I'm not as optimistic as you are that they turn it around. I don't think you can. Think about Rodgers, right? On a points per game basis, Aaron Rodgers is quarterback 24 this season, guys. He's had under 17 fantasy points in every single game this year. If Aaron Rodgers is your only quarterback, hopefully you've already made a switch, but you can't keep rolling him out there. He's a viable streamer against the Commanders, but that's a far cry from this is the reigning MVP.
Yeah, where you drafted him.
Well,
Yeah.
Dudes.
Yep. I think that the offense, it will get better. I don't think it's going to be elite because of just the lack of talent at receiver. But I do think the thing to worry about with the Packers broadly is that their defense is that they just can't stop the run. This is 6 weeks of this now. Every week, someone just destroys them. You're just starting your running back against the Packers every single week because even if they know you're running it every single time, like the Jets were in the second half, like David Montgomery did on Sunday Night Football, they just run it effectively.
And they're not built. The Packers aren't offensively. They're not built to be quick. And, they need to grind out wins. You know what I mean? Because they just, to your point, they don't have the passing game. You've got 12 back there, but they don't have it's not Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes and that kind of offense where it doesn't matter. So as teams are controlling the clock and controlling ball time of possession by being able to run so effectively against them, it's just putting them in these tough situations. And every single team they play in the next 4, my Commanders with should-be comeback player of the year Brian Robinson, right? The Bills and Devin Singletary. You got DeAndre Swift. And then you've got a rejuvenated Ezekiel Elliott, apparently. Last night he looked great. I don't know. It's You know what I mean? The only person I'm starting next week with no doubt is Aaron Jones, and I do think Lazard is a viable starter now as well.
I think Davante Adams must be the greatest player in the history of the NFL, honestly. This team was a 1 seed last year. Aaron Rodgers MVP.
Undefeated at home.
Undefeated at home. And now Davante Adams, like the way that we priced lines previously, he would have been worth 2 points to the line. I have to reassess that because apparently without him, the offense just completely breaks.
Elsewhere in the NFC, Geno Smith finally comes back down to earth for a week.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, as we hoped, Kenneth Walker with his big-time performance in his first NFL start.
Yeah, just a massive game. He played 71% of the offensive snaps, 10% target share. He saw 91% of the Seahawks running back touches. As we head into Monday Night Football, he leads all running backs in rush share this week. Just a massive workload for a talented running back. He got an opportunity. He produced. Nothing more to say about Kenneth Walker here. I'm willing to write this one off for Geno Smith. He had 31 pass attempts in this game, which was the second most that he's had so far this year. He's been highly efficient, right, so far this year. As you see it there on your screen, right, 325, 320, 268, and now just 197 and 0 passing touchdowns against the Arizona Cardinals. What we thought was a pretty good matchup here. Felt like they played back a lot, and they were like, we're not going to give up the deep ball here. And so it was a lot of underneath stuff here. His 6.3 yards per attempt in this game was a season low for Geno Smith. He did have 48 rushing yards in this one, though, and, felt like they weren't giving him anything deep. There wasn't anything, so he took off and ran. I have to go back and watch this game play by play. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but felt like from watching it while I was watching the other games as well that some of it was scrambles. There were a couple of design runs, but for the most part, it was like coverage breaking down and, okay, I got to take off.
Yep. I think that with Kenneth Walker, too, he was better than his stat line, and his stat line was great. He was 21 for 97 on the touchdown. He was better than that. He made 12 guys miss tackles. Just watching him, he looked like an absolute machine. And look, wearing the cheese head and the jet ski, I think Breece Hall is the best offensive rookie. But I think going forward, Kenneth Walker is going to rival Breece Hall. I think that's very close. And if you could trade Breece Hall for Kenneth Walker, get someone to throw in Deontay Johnson or someone like that on top of that, I'd probably make that trade just because I think the Seattle offense, with the tempo that they play at, with their commitment to the run, the Jets are committed to the run as well, I think that Kenneth Walker is just going to be an absolute monster the rest of the way.
We talked about him last week when the Rashad Penny injury happened, that this guy could be a league winner, and nothing we've seen so far changes my opinion on that. I'm still sticking by Geno Smith as a viable low-end QB1. Bad game, bad day at the office. It is what it is. But Chargers, Giants, Cardinals again are the next three for Geno Smith. I'm still sticking with him, and I'm still sticking with, you'd still rather have him than Aaron Rodgers. You'd still rather have him than, Stafford. There's a lot of guys out there as well. Other side of the ball here, real quickly, I just want to talk about Arizona. This was a very disappointing game. It was it was the second highest over/under in the slate. Obviously, it finishes way under as well. We expect a lot more fireworks. We didn't get it. I was shocked by the fact that Eno Benjamin got 18 touches in this game. Just massive usage in a great matchup, and just could only muster, 6.5 fantasy points, something like that. Just a bad game for Eno Benjamin. He had 86% of the team's running back touches, 18 for 65, and he caught 3 balls. So whatever, that was 9.5 fantasy points.
That team just seems like it's trending towards disaster. With Marquise Brown as well, we'll see what the prognosis is with the injury, but he's going to be out. Deandre Hopkins comes back, that helps a little bit, but the fact that they're only able to score 9 points against the Seahawks defense, which, apparently Tariq Woolen is great and they have some talent there, but at the same time, everyone was gashing the Seahawks and Arizona couldn't do anything.
No, and now they've got the short week. They play the Saints on Thursday night. DeAndre Hopkins back at practice today for the Cardinals, just in time, especially if Marquise Brown can't turn it around to be there on Thursday night. We'll see if James Conner can play Thursday night. One last thing I want to mention here before we move off this, though. We've been talking about him for a while. 10 targets for Rondale Moore, and especially he plays a very different role in the offense than Hopkins will or Marquise Brown. And so I do think when we do the waiver wire show tomorrow, guys, Rondale Moore will once again be on it because he's not rostered in enough leagues.
We heard after Tua's injury, Tyreek Hill say, I can produce with anybody at quarterback, as he said that to a literally reporter who asked the question. And listen, they're living up to that. Miami's wide receivers are proving they're quarterback-proof. Waddle, 6 catches, 129 yards. Tyreek Hill, 12 catches, 177 yards. Skylar Thompson gets hurt in this game. Teddy comes in and plays at a very, very competent level for the Dolphins.
Yeah, he did. I don't know that there's much more to say about this Miami game. You know, Mostert didn't have a great game, but he maintained control of the backfield. He got the majority of the snaps there. I don't think anything's changed about Mostert or Chase Edmonds. Just, you know, like when you're throwing as well as you can, there's going to be days like this. I also think Gesicki, huge game here, 6 for 69 in the 2 touchdowns, a 16% 7 target share, which was a season high for him, but still not massive. Like, I guess you have to note it because tight end is such a wasteland, but I think it's worth noting that Durham Smythe was out in this game. This is a guy who has played over 60% of the snaps in 3 of the last 5 games here. I'm not in on Gesicki just yet. Like, noted, but you know, not necessarily for me. I still think Hill, Waddle, and Mostert are the 3 guys you want to start from the Dolphins going forward.
Definitely. Now, there are people in this building who work here who won't be named who benched Tyreek Hill this week. And it's just a reminder that if Tyreek Hill is on your team, you start him every single week. It doesn't matter, to his point, who is playing quarterback. He's the favorite to lead the league in receiving yards.
What do you mean? Who?
It was Danielle Cranen. She benched him. Yeah.
Danielle?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, like, how are you, the meanest guy in the show, not mentioning? It's Danielle. Okay, right, Danielle Cranen.
It's a tough one. Yeah.
Sorry, Danielle.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I don't know why you would bench Tyreek Hill. And you know what? The other thing is I don't know, because you didn't ask me that question, Danielle. You asked Jay. Maybe you asked Jay. I don't know.
No, I didn't get the call up.
You were responsible for this.
I didn't get the call up.
Danielle has, I mean, we were talking yesterday. Danielle told me she's got 5 teams. Like, what are we doing, Danielle? Come on, now.
No, it's a tough
Danielle.
one. And Jalen Waddle as well. He's in that class as well. Not to the same extent as Tyreek, but you just start out Jalen Waddle every single week.
Every single week. I mean, yeah. I mean, it should be asked and answered. I mean, it was an interesting game, right? I mean, so Skylar Thompson gets the start, but then Teddy Bridgewater, he gets banged up. And we expect Tua back next week for the Sunday night game. By the way, Dolphins play Steelers Sunday night right here on NBC and Peacock. I'm a company man. Should be really interesting. We think it will be Tua under center going forward, but whatever. It doesn't matter. They're all quarterback proof.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we are back, we are talking weekend warriors from Week 6 in the NFL.
Never take off the cheese head. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.